bit of news. Today, we're going to talk about asset management. The news. I'm George Williams, CEO of Reliability X, and I'm here with Mr. Ramesh Gulati, better known as the Reliability Sherpa. Ramesh, welcome again.
Thank you. Um, Thank you for this inviting me, and always looking forward to our discussion.
I always look forward to our discussions. Over the years, you have provided not only myself, but so many others with knowledge and understanding and skill sets. Today, we're going to talk at a really high level. Let's pretend we're talking to the C suite here. What the heck is asset management?
Great question. In fact, many years ago, I went through this to just figure out what asset management. I have to be honest. You know, I'm maintenance guy. You are maintenance guy. The maintenance reliability guy. Most of time, over that time, we get involved when asset is on the floor. Asset is coming week or 2 weeks from now. We're going to install it. Somebody going to install it. Already install it. Then we decide, hey, how are we going to operate, maintain?
Yeah.
Okay, and we are getting better in that part. We have done over the years. It's good, but if you think about all the challenges what we are having during operation and maintenance, it starts way back when asset was being designed, built, being installed, and those kind of. We don't pay that much attention, or us, we don't get involved in that part. My learning over the years has been that what our defects we get see during operation and maintenance phase, if we can take care of during that phase, in when we are specifying it, when we are designing it, when we are building it, when we are installing it, commissioning it, those phases, our operation maintenance phase will go down. It'll be more effective, efficient.
Yeah.
Okay? And if we take the whole thing, to me, that's asset management. Again, it's not just that taking a maintenance reliability at this way after an operation, also looking how we are designing it, operating, all those kind of things. So if you take the whole thing, that's what operation manage. That's what asset management
Yeah.
is, in the simplest way, taking the whole asset life cycle.
And when we think about why that's important, we have talked before about the evolution
Yeah.
of maintenance and reliability. And, prior to PMs, it was, build it so robust it'll never fail, right? We talk about steam engines in the
Yeah.
1800s and initial steam pumps and all those things. They were built to last as
Yeah.
long as they possibly could.
You
Then
know
you
why?
get to the inductive, because they had to.
They had to. Also,
Right.
that time we were building those things with a safety factor of 3, 4, 5.
Right.
Now we are designing with a safety factor of 1.2, 1.4.
That's exactly right.
So we are not building that robust. That's another.
No, you're absolutely right. And so what in that evolution, what happened is at some point somebody called up the manufacturer and said, "Hey, I need a part." And the manufacturer went, "What? You just want to buy a part? Wait a minute, I can make money on parts? Well, if I don't make it so good, they'll need more parts." And
That's
so a
right.
business model starts
That's
to get
it.
created, right?
That's right.
And so there's this business model of, oh, well, if I don't make it so good, they're going to call me for parts. So let's make it break.
Break.
And then now you get, further down the stream and PMs are starting to happen and they go, well, they're not ordering as many parts as they used to. Let's make it cheaper because there's competition. Now I'm not the only person making pumps. There's another company. So I've got to get my cost down. So now I'm using slightly cheaper materials and slightly cheaper this and slightly cheaper that. What does that result in? Well, oh man, they need more parts again, right?
That's right.
So the advent of why we need asset management is also tied to the evolution of robustness and design
That's exactly
from the
right.
product,
Yep.
right? And so it's not just a matter of, well, take care of it. Stuff is, and there's certainly things that are designed well from a product perspective. Don't get me wrong. But those models were real. And so the advent of what we have to do to take care of it is also evolving over time. And we have to do
Exactly.
a better job and a better job and a better
And
job.
again, also we have to identify how we're going to use this asset, what's purpose, what's the reliability we are looking for, and that's what we design during that time, right? the right
Exactly.
amount of reliability in it,
Yeah.
by selecting right component and those kind.
Well, in some companies, they just have this model of, well, go out for bid if it solves the function, right? So if I say I need to design a pump and it's got to pump 100 GPM at, 25
Yes, sir.
PSI, and they go out for bid, and whoever was the cheapest to meet those requirements, buy it.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, right?
Well, that's a problem. But again, we have to start asking, hey, we don't just want that pump. We want reliability with it. We want 95% reliability. Means there may be a one failure every 6 months. Those kind of specs we have to write, and that's what they have to do. We don't do that, as you said.
That's
We go to the
right.
cheapest cost, and that's not asset management. So looking the whole life cycle of asset, minimizing total cost of ownership. That's what asset
Yeah.
management.
And I think there's a misnomer that the folks in maintenance are unaware that engineering doesn't care what the requirement is. And, like, if you make the requirement, engineering will try to satisfy it. So over on maintenance side, they think, well, I don't get to decide the requirements, right? I'm not involved in that. And over here on the engineering side, they look at what requirements they have and they go, okay, go out for bid
Good.
on this.
That's exactly.
And if and that gap is what has to get closed to help create the beginnings, the very beginnings of asset management, right?
That's right. Yeah. And I think we have to get this silos mode out, that we all need to be talking together how we can minimize total cost of ownership, which is the total cost of this asset life cycle, how much we can minimize that, but hey, how we can reduce operation cost, maintenance cost, as well as acquisition cost,
Yeah.
all together. That's what we
That's right. And the value proposition of the asset, right? Because
That-
maybe the cheapest is what you have to buy because it's not going to add a lot of value.
That's right.
But
That's right.
if it's the machine that's going to pump out your product on a regular basis, you're going to want that to not fail and not cost as much
That's
to operate and all kinds of other things.
That's right.
And the more maintenance and engineering can partner, understanding what the total goal of the company is, and I think to some respect there's not really shared goals there, right?
That's right.
And that's part of the issue. But from a maintenance perspective, we've got to start training some of the engineering, because I've been in like process FMEAs where the process FMEA says alarm point, stop the machine, alarm point, stop the machine, alarm point, stop the machine, right? And meanwhile, maintenance is getting their ass handed to them with, why is there so much downtime? Well, you designed it to be down all the time.
Well, again, if they would have got maintenance guy in that time when we were developing the control system,
Right.
control diagram, and they would not have that problem.
Yeah.
In fact, a friend of mine who used to work for one of the tire company, and when they design a system, the last day when they're coming on the control system, he made sure the maintenance guy was there. So to bring out these points that, hey, you cannot have alarm there for this thing.
Right.
You have to find the fault before you stop the machine, or still if it can function
Right.
properly.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think my view is, again, I think you are saying the same thing. Let's get silos out. Let's get collectively see how we can use the total cost of ownership and design from that perspective.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Okay, so that's just one little piece. I mean, oh my God, asset management is so big. So that's just a one little piece of it.
Yeah.
Let's pretend we've designed it well. That doesn't necessarily mean the asset's not going to be managing us, right? We still have to make sure that we're managing the asset. So now we're in the operate phase. What do we have to do there?
Well, again, hey, you miss one point. You build it, design it. We have to build it also. You have to make
And
sure.
commission it, right?
Commission
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So we have to do all those things right, and then
Yep.
during commissioning, after we have done those things, we have to operate. Make sure our operators are properly trained, and they have proper training. You're laughing. I've seen this.
Look, this is exactly what happens, right? We buy a line, we put it in. The manufacturer representative shows up. They teach one maintenance person, one, and that person may not know how to train other people. Like they just might not be good at teaching other people. Train one person, and then they're off site. And good luck. Go operate the equipment. Go ahead.
My life, I went through the same thing. And handing over process when came, and they just want to run for 2 hours or 1 hour, and they say, okay. And I never signed those papers myself. my manager, general manager signed it because, hey, I'm not happy. I want to
Right.
make sure it runs for 2 weeks or 4 weeks and we train our people right, then only we're going to accept it. But again, hey, this depends upon your corporate policy.
What happens is this: the line is in place, right? And it's capable of creating good product. And as the plant manager, I got two choices. Run it and train people. So I either put that product on hold till it gets approved or whatnot, but I'm going to run at some slower rates. I'm going to ramp up. I'm going to go back down. I'm going to do things to teach people how to troubleshoot the line.
That's it.
And maybe I need a week of time for that. That's a week of lost production.
Yeah.
Now, in that week, let's say they produce 100 units a minute, 20 hours a day. That's 20,000 units if my math's okay per day. So you got 100,000 units or whatever it is in the week that they could produce and sell. Or they could train people. So they decide, I'm going to make the 100,000 units. They can't really run it that good. It ends up 60,000 units. Then for the next 20 years, they run 60,000 units.
That's exactly
because they didn't do this once.
Once, yep.
And they're perfectly fine running slower for 2 decades because they didn't take the time to understand the equipment up front.
That's exactly your point, and that's what I, in fact, written in my book also, rights and maintenance best practices. There's a design capacity which you got it, means with all these problems, you are getting only designed for 60,000, you're getting only 20,000.
Yep.
You say, okay, that's okay.
Our new target is 20.
20 target. That's not right. We have to think about what's the design, why we are not getting it, what we need to do, how we can operate and maintain, how we can educate them, train them, so we get $60,000. And if there's some issue there, hey, some components are not standing to that 60,000, that's a design problem.
Yeah,
We have to get it fixed.
Yeah.
So I think those are the real issues we have to take care of, educating our people, and that whole thing is asset management.
Yeah, and then so now you've got the how do I operate it effectively, and again, training your people is the number one piece there. The second piece for me is keep your equipment clean so it can be inspected, right? Now you've got to come up with a maintenance strategy because we're going to have to take care of the asset, right? So how do we go about all that?
Well, again, we are late. We should have done that way back.
That doesn't happen. You know what? So we laugh about it, but I've seen like buildings go up, right? They put the shell up, they put the air handlers in. The air handlers run for a year and a half. They've never been looked at by anybody in maintenance. They've never gotten any lubricant. Never, the filters might have gotten changed because construction was still going on. Outside of that, they didn't do anything. And then they start putting all the production equipment in. Suddenly, it's 2 years later, we're finally realizing, oh, by the way, there's an air handler there. I got a PM.
Well, that's a problem. Really is before asset gets in operation mode, we have to ensure that we have done FMEA. We have come up operation and maintenance instruction, what we're going to do, what PM we're going to do. In fact, it's not just come up. It should be a part of your CMMS system.
Oh, yeah.
Before you switch on, you should be there. And, we don't do, if we don't do, we are not doing asset management. We are not doing right things.
Yeah. So previously in my career, I was responsible for reliability at a site. And I was actually a sign-off at the commissioning phase. And so, in theory, projects weren't supposed to close out if I didn't sign off.
That's right.
We know that doesn't happen. The finance goes, no, close it.
Close it.
So in all of that time, about 5 years where I was responsible for that, there were 2 projects that I actually signed off on, and they had the same project manager, a guy named Jim Walsh. He was absolutely phenomenal. He built I'm not going to say what the building was. It was a 300-room building, and we had it inside the CMMS, everything except serial numbers when they broke ground. We knew all the rooms, knew every specification, knew everything beforehand. And then you got other projects. Somebody was just building a parking deck, and you go to do the punch walk, and there's a crack in the bottom of the floor, the lowest level, like, it's raised like this. And you're going, I'm not signing off on that. And they're like, well, it doesn't matter. We're closing the project. We're going to grind it and fill the crack, and we're done.
Yeah, we are done. We are out of money. Let's close it.
Exactly.
You sign it.
That's exactly
right. That's
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
challenge. I think we have to get out of those practices if we want to have a good asset management practices. Make sure things are done properly. In fact, before you start the switch, all the documentation, everything is in your CMMS system properly, and so something happens, you have all maintenance manual. In fact, I had a similar. This guy, I mean, this is one of the best practice. They hire operator maintainer 1 year in advance. I mean, they invested money, and those guys were going to where machinery was being built.
Yep.
And when machinery got
Watch the
installed,
testing. What? Yeah,
all
yeah,
they were
yeah.
doing, then machinery when it was installed, they were taking pictures and developing maintenance operation manuals.
Love it.
And be, they had everything in the system before they switch on the machine properly.
And look, if that results in 1 unit a minute more, it's millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
So, don't these organizations that skimp on it, or they're trying to find a way to replace operators with automation. Your operator is not that expensive compared to additional units.
Yeah.
Train them well, train
That's
them
okay.
well, train them well.
That's very, very important.
Yeah. All right. So now we've got a maintenance strategy. We've got to execute it, and we'll have different videos on maintenance strategy because it'll be way too long of a video. Then we've got to get to the point of, well, what do we track to understand total cost and get to a replacement time?
Well, again, we need to understand what's our replacement cost is. Again, this is the way we have set up a process so that every 5 years, our technical person who is responsible for that asset will go in the market, find out what it costs to replace if something happens.
Yeah.
And then this is a benchmark, how much we are spending maintenance wise, operation wise on that asset. So we can compare with our other friends in the industry, how much they are spending, what should be. Again, if you are doing a good reliability program, should be around 2.5–3%.
2.5,
But you
yeah.
are starting.
So explain that really quick so people understand that. The total cost of maintenance throughout the life of the asset hits a 2.5 times the replacement asset value, or 3 times the replacement asset value, and or your continued budget towards that asset should only represent 2 or 3% of its replacement asset value.
What we are saying is, if you have a good reliability program going, maintenance program strategy, right, we should be spending about 2.5–3% of its replacement value
Right.
every year.
Right. And if it's at 4, 5, 6, then our maintenance cost is too
It's
high
just a
against
little
the
bit
asset.
high. But again, I want to put a caveat there. When you are starting a program, a maintenance program, you may have to spend 4 or 5%.
Oh, yeah. There's always a hump, right?
Hump
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You have to get establishing it. Once you establish it, good quality maintenance program, then you shoot for 2.5–3% is a good number.
Yeah.
Shoot for.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful. All right, so now we're at, I'm spending more. And as maintenance people, we show up to the table and say, hey, this asset's a piece of crap. I want to replace it. That should be good enough?
Well, again, you have to justify that, how much you're spending. And justification would be, hey, you're spending 5%, 6%, 7%, whatever you're spending, and justify to replace that asset.
But I won't know that if I have no work orders. I
Well,
won't know that if I'm
well,
not putting
again-
my parts on the work orders and my services on work orders. If I'm not documenting it, I show up to the table with, yeah, but it's a piece of crap. Just replace it.
That's the justification. We have to look at the data. How much we are spending, what are the failures happening, you are replacing the major component or the whole machine or what. So based on your data, and you bring a great point as a part of whole asset management, we need to be documenting what we're doing in our CMMS system. So CMMS system data can help us to, hey, what's happening?
Oh, you mean it's not just because you want to track the trade staff's time? That's not why you want to work order?
No.
But that's what you hear, right?
That's right.
You guys just want to track our time. It has nothing to do with you. Without data, we can't help you.
We can help. Again, I think it's a part of a documentation. Your work order will tell you what you did on the machine, how much it costed you to do that repair,
Right.
and how many times you did in a year or say in a time frame, and what your reliability is.
Right.
If your reliability going down, your low number, then you can say, yeah, I need a
Costs are up, reliability's
down.
down.
Hey, I can justify something based on
And if
that.
it's the same thing over and over again, we need a redesign or
Redesign
something
something.
change. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so we get to a point of replacing the asset. We've got to decommission. That means we've got to evaluate options. How do we evaluate potential replacement options?
Well, again, there are two things. One is, yes, we have to replacement. What's available to us to meet same thing, or how you can put your reliability requirements in there.
Yep.
And also replacing, taking your old equipment out. You have to make sure you are doing it right, means you are cleaning up if there's a hazardous material there, or you're going to sell it again, your data there. So you have to remove those kind of things as a part of as a asset management.
Right.
Hey, those things are clean, you can sell it to someone, or you can dump it, or whatever you value is.
Right.
You can
And if
do
there's
that.
depreciation remaining, you got to eat that, right?
Eat that right.
Yeah.
And when also then you start also looking into what your replacement would be, what's ideal replacement would be, same machine or better machine or whatever.
And when we do that, we use life cycle costing
That-
and model that out.
Exactly right.
This way we
We
don't
have
go in the same cycle.
same
we were just
cycle
in, right?
again. That's exactly right.
Beautiful. Awesome. So, oh my God. So, in short, asset management is very simple.
Well, that's right. Ensuring we do right things all the way
Right.
to life, not
Yeah,
just
yeah,
this
yeah.
part or this part.
Our decisions have to be based on the overall business value, long term.
The long.
I can make decisions based on my little silo today, whether I'm procurement or engineering or maintenance or operations. I can make decisions in my little silo, or I can think about the company goals and the value proposition the asset brings.
That's exactly
And the
right.
more we think holistically, the better off the company is in totality.
That's exactly right, and we have to think, as you said, about the whole thing, from all the way from concept all the way, and develop our total cost of ownership. How much it will cost me, not just acquisition cost,
Yeah.
operation and maintenance cost.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes we look at the acquisition cost, which is low, it may not be cheaper for operation and maintenance. So we have to look at all aspects and put those kind of requirement in our specification so we do the right things.
Absolutely. Well, I love it. So we should all run out and get us some asset management.
That's right.
Well, if you want to learn more about asset management, you can do that in Ramesh's book. Just grab a copy of Maintenance and Reliability Best Practices, third edition currently, and you can get this right at Amazon. If you want this digitally, you can contact us at ask@reliabilityx.com, and we can sell that as a digital version. For more information on asset management, maintenance, reliability, and all things Ramesh Gulati, go to www.reliabilityx.com or shoot us an email at ask@reliabilityx.com. For Ramesh Gulati, I'm George Williams. Go make tomorrow better than today.